Tell me this right now. How in the world are we just supposed to ignore everything Roman Reigns did to Jey Uso over the last 4 years? How are we suddenly supposed to sit back, clap our hands, and act like the tribal chief and the right-hand man are just one big happy family again? No, absolutely not. Wrestling fans don't forget, and if WWE thinks we're just gonna swallow this narrative without bringing up the past, then they've got another thing coming. Because let's be honest, Roman Reigns didn't just test Jey Uso, he broke him down. He humiliated him. He manipulated him. He destroyed his confidence, twisted his loyalty, and forced him to bow down when Jey didn't want to. Roman turned Jey into his servant, his lackey, his puppet, and now we're supposed to act like all of that never happened. Not on my watch. And here's where it gets real. What if Jey Uso has been biding his time? What if this whole good terms thing is nothing more than Jey waiting for the perfect moment to strike? What if the heel turn, the betrayal, is not only coming but is 100% justified? Because let's not sugarcoat it, Jey owes Roman a receipt. A massive one. And if he finally delivers it, no one can honestly say Roman doesn't deserve it. Remember the beginning of this entire bloodline saga. Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso in 2020. Those matches weren't just fights, they were psychological warfare. Roman told Jey, fall in line or get left behind. He told him he wasn't on his level. He beat him so badly inside hell in a cell that Jimmy Uso had to literally throw in the towel for his brother. And then Roman had the audacity to act like he was doing Jey a favor, like he was molding him into something greater. No, Roman was molding Jey into his personal slave. Fast forward, Jey stood by Roman, followed orders, betrayed people he loved, including his own twin, Jimmy, all because Roman demanded it. And why? Because Roman Reigns played on Jey's emotions, guilt-tripped him, convinced him that family loyalty meant obedience. That's not leadership. That's manipulation. So now ask yourself, if Jey Uso turns on Roman, if he snaps and takes the knife straight to the tribal chief's back, is that a betrayal, or is it justice? Is it a crime, or is it karma finally catching up to Roman Reigns? Because in my eyes, Roman created this monster. He built Jey into something darker, something more dangerous, and when that side of Jey finally explodes, it'll be the very monster Roman brought into existence. And don't act like Jey hasn't shown us glimpses of that darker side before. Remember, main event Jey Uso. Remember when he carried SmackDown week after week, thriving in singles competition, showing the world he didn't need Roman, didn't need Jimmy, didn't need anybody. That wasn't the Jey who bowed down, that was the Jey who stood tall. And what happened? Roman snuffed it out. Roman made sure that every time Jey shined, it was only because the tribal chief allowed it. Roman suffocated his own cousin's career just to keep himself in power. So picture this, imagine the pop, imagine the shockwaves, imagine the heat, when Jey Uso finally says, enough is enough. Imagine Roman Reigns standing tall in the ring, smug look on his face, holding that championship high, only for Jey Uso to superkick him straight into reality. Imagine the crowd erupting, half in cheers, half in gasps, because they can't believe what they just saw. That's not just a heel turn. That's a revolution. And here's the kicker. Would Jey Uso even be the heel in that scenario? Or would Roman Reigns still be the villain, and Jey just the one brave enough to finally pull the trigger? Because let's be real, the fans have been waiting for someone to take Roman down for years. Cody Rhodes came close. Sami Zayn came close. Drew McIntyre came close. But none of them had the history, the scars, the emotional depth with Roman that Jey has. Jey Uso turning on Roman wouldn't just be another challenger stepping up, it would be the story coming full circle. The beginning meeting the end. Think about this. When Roman Reigns stood over Jey Uso, demanding him to acknowledge him, that wasn't just a catchphrase. That was Roman forcing his own flesh and blood to bow, to worship him, to surrender his pride. That wasn't family business, that was a dictator ruling with fear. And dictators always fall. Always. Now imagine Jey, finally done with carrying Roman's ego, finally done with taking orders, finally snapping and saying, no more. That wouldn't just shake WWE. That would burn the entire bloodline dynasty to the ground. Because let's not kid ourselves, the bloodline storyline didn't survive because of Roman Reigns alone. No, it thrived because of Jey Uso. Every emotion, every tear, every conflicted stare, Jey made us feel it. He was the heart of the story while Roman was the head. You remove the heart, the story collapses. You flip the heart against the head, and suddenly the monster Roman created is the same one tearing him apart. And here's why this is bigger than just family drama. Roman has done so much damage to Jey's career that at this point, a heel turn wouldn't just be revenge, it would be redemption. Jey Uso finally stepping into the role of his own man, not Roman's right hand, not Jimmy's twin, but Jey Uso the destroyer. The one man who had the guts to take down the tribal chief when no one else could. But let's dig deeper, because you can't talk about Jey turning heel without asking one crucial question: would the fans boo him? Or would they cheer him for doing the one thing everyone else has failed to do? Picture this. Roman Reigns defends his title, somehow escapes yet again, standing tall like he always does, smug grin on his face. And then, bang, superkick. Another one. Another one. The crowd is in shock, not knowing whether to cheer or boo, because on one hand it's betrayal, but on the other, it's the justice we've all been waiting for. And as Roman lies on the mat, staring up at the lights, it finally dawns on him that the one man he thought he controlled, the one man he thought would never leave his side, is the very man who destroyed him. That's storytelling perfection. That's not just another heel turn. That's cinema. But let's get real, this wouldn't be the first time Jey Uso showed signs of rebellion. He walked out before. He stood against Roman before. He even pinned Roman in that tag match at Money in the Bank last year, something nobody else had done in over 3 years. That was a crack in the armor. That was a preview. That was the moment Roman realized his empire wasn't unshakable anymore. And if WWE wants to bring that story back around, Jey's betrayal is the natural ending. Now, is it justified? Absolutely. Roman used Jey's loyalty like a weapon. He forced Jey to betray his own twin. He made him look weak, made him question his worth, made him sacrifice everything for the bloodline's dominance. At some point, the scars become too deep, the anger too strong, the memories too painful. And when that moment hits, it's not betrayal, it's liberation. And I want you to really think about this. Roman Reigns spent years bragging that he made Jey Uso. He said without him, Jey would still be in the tag team shadows, never reaching main event status. But here's the truth. Jey was always capable. Roman didn't make him. He suppressed him. He chained him down and forced him into a role that benefited Roman, not Jey. So when Jey finally breaks free, when he finally flips the script, it won't be Roman losing his right-hand man, it'll be Roman realizing he created the very monster that ends him. And let me tell you this. If WWE has the guts to pull that trigger, it would be the biggest betrayal since Seth Rollins swung that steel chair on the Shield. But this one would cut even deeper, because it's family. It's blood. It's legacy. And nothing hurts more than betrayal by the person you trusted the most. Let's not pretend like Jey Uso hasn't been carrying a storm inside of him since day one of this whole bloodline saga. You could see it in his eyes. Every time Roman barked an order. Every time Roman belittled him in front of millions. Every time Roman forced him to do something that went against his heart. That's not loyalty. That's survival. Jey wasn't standing with Roman because he believed in him. He was standing with Roman because he was trapped. Because Roman made him feel like there was no way out. But here's the thing about storms. They don't stay bottled up forever. Eventually, they explode. And when Jey Uso finally lets that storm out, Roman Reigns won't be ready. He'll still be smiling, still believing he's the head of the table, still believing everyone bows to him, until Jey Uso finally flips the table over. Now, let's get to the emotional core of this. Jey Uso has been through more pain because of Roman Reigns than anyone else. Roman didn't just beat him in matches, he broke his spirit. He forced Jey to say the words, "I quit," in front of the entire world while choking out his own brother, Jimmy. That wasn't just a loss. That was humiliation. That was trauma. That was Roman ripping apart Jey's soul and doing it with a smile on his face. So, you tell me, if Jey Uso someday looks Roman in the eye and finally says, "You don't own me anymore," before superkicking his head off, how is that betrayal? No. That's survival. That's revenge. That's years of pain coming back full circle. And think about how WWE could play this. Roman Reigns is always preaching about being the tribal chief, about being the leader, about protecting the family's legacy. But what if Jey finally turns it around on him? What if Jey tells Roman that he's the one destroying the family, that he's the one tarnishing the Anoa legacy with his selfishness, with his dictatorship, with his obsession for power? That's not leadership. That's tyranny. And sometimes, the only way to end tyranny is with betrayal. Here's another angle. Roman Reigns has always controlled the spotlight. He's the face of the bloodline, the one holding the championships, the one everyone talks about. But Jey Uso, he's always been the shadow, the supporting character, the one standing just behind Roman. And that eats away at a man. That burns inside, especially when you know you're just as good, if not better, than the guy hogging all the glory. At some point, that resentment turns into rage. And rage is dangerous. Rage doesn't care about loyalty. Rage doesn't care about family. Rage only cares about release. And let's not forget, Jey Uso is already a proven star without Roman. When Jimmy was injured and Jey was forced into singles competition, what did we see? Main event Jey Uso. A man who could headline SmackDown, carry storylines, wrestle main event level matches, and thrive on his own. That wasn't Roman making Jey. That was Jey proving what he always had inside of him. Roman didn't elevate Jey. Jey elevated himself. Roman just made sure to chain him back down when the time came, because he couldn't handle his own cousin shining brighter than him. So now imagine this storyline. Jey Uso finally betrays Roman, turning heel, or maybe turning into something beyond heel and face, something in between. The anti-hero. The man who doesn't care about cheers or boos, who doesn't care about fans or family, who only cares about finally taking back the dignity Roman stole from him. That's a story bigger than championships. That's legacy versus liberation. That's the bloodline cracking from the inside. And here's the reality. If Jey Uso betrays Roman, the entire WWE landscape shifts. Because you're not just talking about one betrayal, you're talking about the collapse of everything Roman has built for 4 years. The cracks already started with Jimmy. Then Sami Zayn. Then Solo showing his doubts. And if Jey finally pulls the trigger, that's it. That's the domino that sends the empire crashing down. Roman Reigns has built himself up as untouchable, as unbeatable, as the tribal chief no one can dethrone. But the irony is, the only man who can truly end Roman isn't Cody Rhodes, isn't Seth Rollins, isn't even The Rock. It's Jey Uso. The man Roman thought he owned. The man Roman thought would never leave his side. The man Roman underestimated. Because betrayal from the outside hurts, but betrayal from within, that kills you. Now let's talk about the how. Because if Jey Uso is going to betray Roman Reigns, it can't be random. It can't be lazy. This needs to be the kind of betrayal that shakes WWE to its core, the kind of moment people talk about 10 years from now in highlight packages and documentaries. Picture this. Roman Reigns is in the middle of yet another high-profile match. Maybe it's against Cody Rhodes. Maybe it's against Seth Rollins. Maybe it's even The Rock. Roman is doing what Roman always does, cheating, bending the rules, relying on interference, doing whatever it takes to keep his empire alive. The referee is down. The chaos is erupting. And then here comes Jey Uso, storming down the ramp. The crowd is on fire because they don't know what side he's on. Is he here to help Roman? Is he here to stop him? Roman smirks, arms wide open, confident that his right-hand man is about to save him once again. And then, bang, superkick to the jaw. Roman collapses. The crowd explodes. The commentary team loses their minds. Michael Cole screaming, Jey Uso just betrayed Roman Reigns. It's not just a shock, it's poetic justice. Years of manipulation, years of humiliation, years of torment, all released in one violent kick. And if you really want to maximize the impact, don't just do one superkick. Do 3. Do 4. Let Jey snap. Let him unload years of frustration in a barrage of kicks until Roman Reigns is left broken on the mat. That's not betrayal. That's vengeance. That's Jey Uso exercising the demon Roman planted inside of him. Now, what happens after that? This is where the real fun begins. Because Roman versus Jey doesn't need to be just another match. This would be the match. The story that started the bloodline would also be the story that ends it. It's family versus family. Tribal chief versus right-hand man. Abuser versus survivor. And if WWE books it right, this could main event a WrestleMania without question. Imagine the promos leading up to that clash. Roman standing tall, calling Jey ungrateful, accusing him of betrayal, saying he made him into something and that without him, Jey is nothing. And Jey firing back, saying Roman didn't make him, he broke him. Saying Roman destroyed his family, destroyed his spirit, and that now it's time to destroy the tribal chief's empire. That's not just a feud, that's Shakespeare written in blood. And you want to know the wildest part? Even if WWE labels Jey Uso as the heel in this story, the crowd won't buy it. The fans won't boo him. Because deep down, everyone knows Roman deserves it. Everyone knows Jey's pain is justified. Everyone knows this is the only way the story can truly end, with Roman Reigns finally brought down, not by an outsider, not by a challenger, but by the very man he spent years torturing. But let's not forget about the ripple effects. Because if Jey betrays Roman, what happens to Jimmy Uso? What happens to Solo Sikoa? What happens to Paul Heyman? Does Jimmy stand by his twin, or does he question him for turning against family yet again? Does Solo stay loyal to Roman, or does he finally realize the tribal chief's grip isn't worth the pain anymore? And Paul Heyman. Oh, Paul Heyman would sell this like nobody else. His shocked face, his panicked screams, his terrified realization that the bloodline empire is crumbling, that's Emmy-worthy television right there. And then there's the bigger picture. If Jey Uso pulls this off, his career trajectory skyrockets. He's no longer just one half of the Usos. He's no longer just Roman's lackey. He becomes the guy. The man who did the impossible. The man who betrayed Roman Reigns and lived to tell the tale. And that opens the door for rivalries with everyone. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, even Gunther. Because once you take out Roman Reigns, the entire WWE locker room sees you differently. You're not just another superstar, you're a made man. And think about the fans. WWE fans live for these moments. The Shield's betrayal, Hogan joining the NWO, Kevin Owens turning on Chris Jericho. Those betrayals defined eras. And Jey Uso turning on Roman Reigns. That would define this generation. It would be the nail in the coffin of the bloodline storyline, the payoff everyone has been waiting for, and the perfect way to finally bring Roman's reign of terror to an end.